Hey, folks, Gene Galin here with the Chatham Journal. I got Asheebo Rojas of the award-winning Asheebo Rojas of the Chatham News and Record. Here's this week's ChathamNC Sports Roundup. Hey, thank you for visiting with us. Thank you for watching and listening. You guys are our support's growing, not just in the eastern part of the county, but the western part of the county, and everybody's wants to know what's going on in ChathamNC sports. But here's a review. We're going to do agenda review of last Friday's game. The big news for this Friday is there are no Friday night football games. We got the big storm coming up, hitting us, I think, sometime tomorrow. So C4 is playing at Chatham Central, Northwoods at Bartlett Yancey, and Jordan Matthews at Northmore. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the football power rankings. And then, of course, the paper came out today, Chatham News and Record. Asheebo's going to get into what his stories are. Then one of people's favorite things is Asheebo's Athlete of the Week. Then we'll go out into volleyball, a lot of good news there. Soccer, more news there. Cross country. There's a lot going on in Chatham County. And again, if you aren't following Asheebo on X, you need to. He's at Asheebo R38, and I'm at ChathamNC Sports. All right, let me get rid of this design, and we'll start off with, hold on here for a second. There it goes. All right, let me go. Yeah, I'm pointing right this time. All right, Asheebo, let's have you talk about last week's Friday night football games. Go for it.
Yeah, so we can start with the big game, the big rivalry game in the county last week between Northwood and Jordan Matthews and Northwood's homecoming night there. And like I said in the story that came out today, I mean, the ground wasn't safe for Jordan Matthews in that one. Northwood basically controlled the run game on both sides of the ball. Talked to Dalton Brown, their head coach, after the game, and he said that was the plan. I mean, that was what they wanted to do coming into that game, knowing Jordan Matthews. They pride themselves on physicality. That's the bread and butter of their offenses in the run game. So we saw some good things from the Northwood defensive line, led by A.J. Rome Mason, who had 2 sacks in that one. And then on the offensive side, Robert Tripp rushed for over 200 yards. The team rushed for over 300 yards as a total between Tripp, Grayson Cox, Rajay Torres, Antoine Brewington. I mean, it was just a really good day for Northwood on the run. And they also did some good things in the passing game as well, with 2 touchdown passes going to Isaiah Blair on slant routes. It's something that they just saw all game, and it worked for them. So the Chargers got a big bounce back win after that loss to Southeast Alamance the week prior. And, yeah, now they're looking at Bartlett Yancey for tonight. Jordan Matthews, they'll be going to Northmore for tonight, looking for a bounce back win after last week's loss to Northwood. So, yeah, and I mean, just the Chargers looking like, the best team in the county so far this season, even though they've had some tough losses early on, but those were against really good teams like Southeast Alamance, I mean, who has really shown to be, in their own tier in the Mid-Carolina 1A, 2A conference this season. So, yeah, that's what we saw from Northwood. And then other games of the week, we had Seaford. They went up against Cummings, put up a good fight against the defending conference runner-ups, but they couldn't overcome, their self-inflicted wounds and Cummings' rushing attack in that game. And then in that one, sophomore quarterback Duncan Parker, he threw for 222 yards and 2 touchdowns.
All right, we just lost Asheebo for a second. Let me bring him back on. All right, Asheebo, we lost you for a second, but I brought you back on. That occasionally happens. Also want to let folks know, if you're watching us on Facebook, we're on Facebook, X, and on YouTube. Most of you watch us on Facebook. There's about 200 of you that watch us on X. If you're watching us live, you can comment in the comment section of Facebook. So anyway, Asheebo is now back. So we're going to go back. And no, that's okay. Hey, it's technology. It doesn't always work right. So let's get back to you talking about football. Before you go on, the Northwood game versus Jordan Matthews, I was going to let folks know they can go on to X. You did those interviews. They're on videos on there that's available. And I think the interesting thing is when you and I talked to Coach Dalton Brown, he mentioned that they started off being aggressive from the very beginning because they had played a little bit short and fell short on a previous game, but this time they came out strong. So Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they play today. But we're not going to get to that yet. We're going to backtrack, and Asheebo's back on. So
Yeah, my apologies. My laptop just turned off on its own all of a sudden. But yeah, talking about Seaforth and Cummins. Cummins, their rushing attack, they rushed for over 300 yards as well, 358 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns on 41 carries as a team. I mean, that's coming. That's just Cummins' style of play. I mean, pound you in the run game, and Seaforth, a defense that we saw do good things against Westover, and against Graham last week in that win. I know it got worn down in the run game in that one, and so couldn't pull that one out. But the Hawks will play Chatham Central today. I will be at that one, and we'll talk a little bit more about that one in a second. So I want to get the Chatham Central's game from last week, where they lost to Bartley Yancey 56-12. And from what I saw in the aftermath of that game, I mean, the Bears did complete some long passes throughout the night with Nick Glover to Luke Gaines, and did move the ball down the field some, and even got 12 points on the board. But they just couldn't keep up with the Buccaneers' offense, and the defense just couldn't get enough stops to keep that one close. So Chatham Central fell to 0-3 in the conference, 1-4 overall after that loss. And then, yeah, just Gene, if you want to go ahead and get into the games next week.
Yeah, let's talk about tonight's games. Do you want to talk about the game between JM and not JM's Central versus Seaforth first, or do you want to hold that off to the last spot?
We can start off with that one, actually.
All right, let's go for it. That's going to be the game that you're going to be at, and I'll be showing up at that game to take pictures as well.
Yeah, so third ever meeting between Seaforth and Chatham Central since Seaforth opened a couple years ago, and Seaforth 2-0 in the series. Another big game for Chatham Central. See if they can get pick up their first conference win this year. They came really close against Jordan Matthews, but the key here for Chatham Central is what I see is just finding ways to get in the end zone, right? And finding ways to put drives together. We saw against Jordan Matthews, they had some good drives, get all the way down the field, 60, 70 yards with some rushing, mix of passing, but they just can't punch it in once they get close in the red zone and deep in enemy territory. So that'll be a key for Chatham Central. If they can get the ball across the goal line, put some points up, because they'll need it against Seaforth, who I imagine is going to come in this game looking to just run the ball, establish the run there, which has been kind of a struggle for Chatham Central defensively in stopping the run. And I mean, Seaforth has a good rushing attack with its running backs and Duncan Parker as well that can do some things on the ground. They can also do some things in the air, which we start to see a little bit more as the season goes on. Because in that Westover game we went to, the offense really did struggle in that one, but they've been able to put together some good plays and some positive momentum in some of the games after that. So for Seaforth, I think the key for them will be, just like I said, running the ball and really just keeping up that defensive intensity that they've been playing with all season. And I think against Chatham Central, that won't be too much of a challenge, because I know Chatham Central, they're still trying to get the offense all the way together with Nick Glover at quarterback, Luke Gaines at receiver, and still moving some pieces around. But I think Seaforth, my pick for them tonight is for Seaforth to win this game and a big victory, come out and get another conference win under their belt to move to 2-1 in the conference. Gene, what do you think about tonight?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Chatham Central being a smaller school at it as a disadvantage, but the Coach Little's going to have them up and ready, and it is homecoming for Chatham Central tonight. That game is starting at 7. I think the Northwood game that we're going to talk about, that game actually starts at 6:30, but everyone else is starting at 7. So homecoming is always special. I hope it doesn't rain. I think it might shower a little bit, but I remember shooting a game out there one time for homecoming, and they had so much rain that the poor young ladies that were in the court, when they were going out there, they had to put plywood down because their shoes kept on sinking into the turf. So I'm hoping that we're not going to have that tonight. I hope we have nice weather so that folks can enjoy that game. Homecoming game this Thursday night tonight at Chatham Central, and yes, Asheebo's going to be there, and I do think Seaforth's going to win this one. All right, you want to get into the next one?
Yeah, I want to talk about Jordan Matthews and Northmore. Another interesting one because we have Jordan Matthews 2-3 on the year, 1-2 in conference play. They're going up against Northmore, who hasn't won a game yet this season. That's lost 2 conference games. I mean, if I had to pick a team to win this one, I will say Northmore. And that's not me saying that Jordan Matthews, doesn't have a chance in this game, but health has been a really big issue for the Jets this year, especially missing Rashad McSwain for most of the year. They're missing Namir Wiley last week. I'm not too sure where everyone's status is for Friday, but from what I've seen, it's been a struggle with keeping guys healthy at Jordan Matthews this year. And I think if they're missing some of those key guys once again, like McSwain and Wiley, it's going to be really hard to keep up with Northmore's offense. I think they're going to come with the same run people over mentality that they've been running the past couple of years with their wing T offense, misdirection, mixing some things up in the backfield and pulling off long runs. I think Northmore will pull out their first win of the season and conference win of the season tonight. And Jordan Matthews, I think the key for them, like I said, is just health. And this game, I think just see from them, just want to see, a good fight from the Jets and who they have. I think they, even in this game, I think they still have a chance to make it competitive and even win this game. But without your key players, it's going to be really hard. And Jordan Matthews really relies on those guys to make some plays on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, that's my pick for that game tonight. Gene, what do you think about that game?
You know what? If it wasn't for the injuries, I would probably say Jam would win this game. But if you take a look at our comments right now in Facebook, Derek's noted that my son's pretty sure he's done for the year. Namir's done for the year. They got 14 players down this week alone, and only 10 varsity players left. So they got beat up by Northwood. And I mean, like you said, injuries have plagued them this year, and that puts them at a disadvantage. So I hate to say this, but I would have to agree with you. I think Northmore's got a chance to win this one simply because of all the folks that are hurt on the JM team. I will say they don't give up. You and I saw that at the Northwood game. Coach Kermit was on those guys, and they kept on playing tough, even though they just don't have the bodies right now to be able to do that. So we'll see what happens. I know Coach Kermit's not going to let them go up, but hey, they're 2-3, so maybe they'll get 3-3 and get lucky. We'll see. But I will have to kind of agree with you on this one. It's going to be a tough game for them tonight. So,
yeah, and one last thing I want to say about JM too, I forgot is, I mean, yeah, without having Dula, that would be huge because we saw at the end of that Northwood game, they actually found something in the pass game, getting the ball down to Kenneth, finding some other guys in the passing game because they started with a good reception to Omar Sanford actually. So maybe that's something Jordan Matthews builds on. Maybe the rest of this year they get those guys back, maybe into next year, which would be interesting to see. But yeah, the other game, Northwood and Bartlett Yancey tonight, and Northwood is going to Bartlett Yancey for an away game here, and in this one, I do see Northwood coming out on top in this one. Bartlett Yancey has shown some good things. They're 2-3 overall, 2-1 in conference play, just like Northwood. And the thing is, they've shown that they had a little trouble stopping the run, which I'm sure Coach Brown, Robert Tripp, the guys at Northwood are probably licking their lips at that, because that's what they do. Over 300 yards as a team last week. I see them having another big game from the ground again because. Why fix something if it's not broken? And so I think Northwood is going to get another big game from Tripp, Cox, Ruinton, Rajay Torres on the ground as well, who made some big plays for them, both in the passing game and in the run game, which has really opened up Northwood's offense and what they can do. So, yeah, I got Northwood on top of Bartlett Yancey. I actually think they might pull out a statement win tonight and get a big win in that one. What do you think, Gene?
Yeah, you know what? Let me ask you this. we talked to those players after the game. You had them lined up there, and you're talking to them. My impression was that game against JM kind of clicked for them all. And the quarterbacks, Grayson Cox, you got Robert Tripp, you got defense too. There were 2 sacks there, and all those guys are talking about. I think I get the sense that combination of guys, along with the support staff, they're going to do okay if they come out strong to start off the game. What's, again, your sense after talking to those players after the game? What are you feeling?
Yeah, you can tell their confidence is getting bigger, better and better throughout the season. Even in those bumps they took against Southeast Alamance, Union Pines, Riverside, Durham. Those were that was a toughest stretch, I would say, of their season. Now they're getting into deeper into conference play. I see the only tough game for them left is that Cummings game, maybe Seaforth, but I think kind of a little bit like last year, where they took a couple losses early on, and then you see them just snap and really pick up some big wins in conference play over teams like we said, Seaforth, Bartlett, Yancey. I think we might see a little bit of the same thing with Northwood this year because the guys have been here before. I know it's a different coach, and they kind of struggled the past couple of years with having new coaches come in and change the systems, but these are the same players that have the same experience as the past couple of years. And I think with that experience, being familiar with these opponents that they have coming up, and just like I said, already getting through the toughest part of their schedule, coming out 2-3, it's still 2-1 in conference play. I think their confidence is as high as it can be right now. And I know talking to Dalton Brown after the game, he said now that the goal is just finishing as best as they can, pretty much, to still do what they want to do in the conference, which is finish as high as they can in conference, compete for a conference title, and make the playoffs, which, making the playoffs, finishing high in the conference right now at third. All that is still in play here with 5 games left in the season.
Yeah, I just want to add, Coach Little has just joined and is watching. You know what, Coach Little, I'm going to let you know, if you want to join, we've had guests on the show. If you want to join us in some future live stream, just let us know and we'll arrange to bring you on there. And I don't know if you know this, Coach Little, but Asheebo will be at the game tonight. So he's going to be there for the homecoming game. I'm going to probably show up at halftime because there's a candidates form I've got to shoot before I get out there. But if you want to, we'll be more than welcome to have you aboard and talk to you as to what you see going on at Chatham Central. All right. We did cover all the football games coming up tonight. Yep. So are we ready now to go into Asheebo's favorite part, the football power rankings?
Football power rankings. Yep. So let me pull it up here. Yeah. So last week we had Northwood at 1, Jordan Matthews at 2, Seaforth at 3, and Chatham Central at 4. That was last week's rankings. We got a little bit of a switch around in the middle of the power rankings this week. So starting at 4 again, at 4, we got Chatham Central once again at the 4 spot there. And then at 3, right behind them, is Jordan Matthews. And then at 2, I have Seaforth. And the reason why I switched Seaforth and Jordan Matthews around, I think we saw a little bit of a better effort from Seaforth in that game against Cummings, going up against a team that's going to compete for a conference title in the Mid-Carolina 1A, 2A conference. And like we said, they put up a good fight in that one. 20 to 3 at halftime, and they still the game wasn't totally out of reach, and they were able to still find some good plays, pick up some scoring opportunities, and make that a better game than what it's been the past couple of years between Seaforth and Cummings. So, like what I seen at the Hawks last week, even though they did lose that game. And then at 1, I have Northwood still. I still think, like I said, Northwood is, looking at the roster, one of the more talented teams in the county, and going up against Jordan Matthews. They've shown that, within the county, they're still the best team, I feel like. And of course, we still got to see them play Seaforth in a couple weeks as well, and Chatham Central down the road. But Northwood, big win over Jordan Matthews, who I thought was, a healthy Jordan Matthews team is definitely a pretty good team for themselves this year compared to what they've been in the past. So that's my power rankings for this week. Northwood, Seaforth, Jordan Matthews, and Chatham Central in that order. Gene, what do you think about that?
I'd have to agree, but I also want to let you know that Coach Little said he would love to join us. I responded back to him on Facebook that I will reach out to him and let him know how he can do that, and maybe we'll have him on next Thursday. Coach Little, we appreciate it. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think being a Chatham County resident, you kind of feel bad for JM because I think Coach Kermit's doing a lot. And at the first media day, he's just talking about the fact that, and Coach Little does this as well. Actually, Coach Gary and Coach Dalton Brown. The nice thing about our coaches here in the county are they're talking about, hey, we're not just developing football players, we're developing players for life. So I think the thing with JM is unfortunately their guys have gotten beat up. And as you said, I think if they were up to full strength, we'd see some different results than what we're seeing right now. So that's unfortunate. But hey, Coach Kermit, wishing you the best of luck tonight. Coach Little, you're playing against another Chatham County team, and people always say, do you have a favorite? And I love seeing when two Chatham County teams play, but you need to watch us and see what our prediction was for tonight's game. All right. The paper came out today, or is coming out today. So if you haven't picked one up, Asheebo's going to give you a rundown of what his stories are, and he's also going to let you know who his athlete of the week is. So Asheebo, let us know what you've got in the Chatham News and Record this week.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we're good. So yeah, this week we have race on Jordan over Southeast Alamance and boys over the Stallions to take outright first place. About that showdown between the top conference and Jordan Matthews coming out on top. We also have the story from Northwood's big win over Jordan Matthews on his homecoming night and last week's Friday football game. And then we also have our football roundup. We just talked with the stuff we just talked about, recapping last week's games in football. We also have our sports roundup with volleyball, girls tennis, boys soccer, cross country, all the big moments across those sports from the week. And then we also have Chatham Charter and Seaforth, a story on them that's coming out online tomorrow. Both programs won their third straight conference cups for their respective conferences. They received those trophies at the NCHSAA regional meetings last week, so you can read more about those accomplishments for those programs. And then athlete of the week this week is Northwood's Julia Hall from their girls cross country team. She got athlete of the week for her performance in the girls invitational 5K race at the Adidas Cross Country Challenge last weekend. She finished 19th out of 247 runners with a time of 20 minutes and 1.1 seconds, which was a faster time than any of the 15 other Chatham County runners in the race. And she nearly ran a minute faster than the next best time from a county runner. So definitely led the pack for Chatham County in that one, and gets the athlete of the week honors for that one. So congrats to Julia Hall, the all first team all conference runner from last year, doing big things once again this season.
Okay, are we now ready to go into what's the other sports? Volleyball. Let's talk about give us a rundown of what's going on in volleyball. Give us your unofficial power ranking. I think you and I talked about this before we started the live stream. I will probably agree with your power rankings on volleyball, but give us a rundown of what's going on with girls volleyball in the county.
Yeah, so just keeping it to this week because we got quite a few games in the past couple of days before the hurricane comes. But yeah, Seaforth, they picked up another big win over Chatham Central, 3-0 this time. It was 3-0 the first time two teams met earlier this season. And the Hawks are really just on a roll, as you see in conference play. Even after that loss to Chapel Hill, they got a set from Chapel Hill, which was, Chapel Hill's the number one ranked team by high school OT. And Seaforth did play them tough with some close sets there. And Chatham Central, a little bit of a rough week for the Bears, because after that loss, they took a 3-0 loss to Southeast Alamance on the 25th or yesterday. And then we also had Northwood picking up 2 wins this week with a 3-1 win over Bartlett Yancey, and then a 3-2 win over Lee County, a big win over a higher classification opponent. So congrats to the Chargers on that one, going 2-0 this week. And then we also have Jordan Matthews taking another loss to Northmore, 3-1. And then Chatham Charter getting a win over Triangle Math and Science, 3-0. Woods Charter still doing good things, like we said in the conference, the Central Tar Heel 1A conference, 3-0 win over Southern Wake Academy. And Jordan Matthews did lose another one early this week to Northmore, 3-0. So, yeah, unofficial volleyball power rankings, starting from 5, going all the way up to 1. Oh, no, starting at 6, going up all the way up to 1. At 6, I'll have Jordan Matthews. 5, Chatham Charter. 4, Chatham Central. 3, Northwood. 2, Woods Charter. And 1, Seaforth. So big changes compared to what I've said the past couple of weeks. Usually I've had Seaforth and Chatham Central 1 and 2, but seeing some good things from Woods Charter and Northwood as of recent weeks. And Chatham Central hit a bit of a rough patch this part of the season. So looking to see if the Bears can bounce back. But as of right now, what we've seen so far from the Bears recently, we got them down at 4. So, Gene, what do you think of that?
I think I'd have to agree with you on that. And I was just going to say, I saw the Chatham Central versus Seaforth game, and Seaforth, they're just the strongest team in the county right now. The interesting thing about the Chatham Central Bears, and you got to talk to their coach at the game at JM at the football game. She was there. They're probably one of the happiest kids that I see playing volleyball. They've got a smile on their face. I actually put out a quick 20-second video clip on Twitter. There was a break in between the sets, and some music was playing, and they're over there just dancing to it. They're enjoying life. So I'm glad to see Chatham Central, even though they've hit a rough patch, playing as well as they are. I also want to say comments on Facebook right now on the thread. Angela Glover is praying for all the guys. Hey, as a believer, I believe in the power of prayer. And Angela, I know there's folks in the county that join you in saying prayers and hoping that our kids stay safe when they're playing sports, especially football, one of the tougher sports around there. If you folks don't know, Mr. Asheebo over there was also a high school player. And if you want to know, his number was 38. So Asheebo R38 is on Twitter, and you can follow him there on X. So, yeah, I would have to agree with you. Oh, you mentioned, I saw this on your X feed. Was it Seaforth's playing somebody big coming up in the beginning of October? You want to let folks know about that in volleyball?
Yes. So Seaforth, they're playing against a highly ranked Cardinal Gibbons team at their place on October 9th for a big statewide volleyball matchup. So it's going to be a big game. I'm looking to try to get to that game because it's going to be in Raleigh, of course, at Cardinal Gibbons. But yeah, another big test for Seaforth, just to see what they have and what they can do in the 2A playoffs, going up against a team in a higher classification with a lot of great talent, really good, nice put together team. And yeah, I mean, we'll see if Seaforth can pull out a win in one of these non-conference games. I mean, they have earlier this year wins over Union Pines and Orange, but Chapel Hill, they showed some good things in Chapel Hill, but still came short 3-1. Now they get another chance against one of the best teams in the state with Cardinal Gibbons, and we'll see if they can be even more competitive in that one. So really excited to see what Seaforth can bring for that game.
Yeah, it's nice to see our teams doing well here in the county. The other big sport that's you and I had talked about this at the beginning of the season, soccer. JM started off kind of slow, but that seems to be turning around. So why don't you let folks know what's going on in the soccer scene here in Chatham County?
Yeah, boys soccer, starting with the games we had Monday. We had Jordan Matthews picking up a big 9-0 win over American Leadership Academy in Johnston. And then we had Seaforth taking the loss to a tough Southeast Elements team 3-0. Northwood picking up a big win over Cummings 6-1, and Woods beating Clever Garden School 2-0. And then yesterday, I was at the Jordan Matthews and Seaforth game at Jordan Matthews. Just put out a close one, 1-0. And then Chatham Charter did lose to Ascend Leadership 10-3. And that's all we have for boys soccer this week that I saw. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about that Jordan Matthews and Seaforth game. I mean, Seaforth, they're not expecting to be the best team this year. They're a younger team, missing some of the guys that really did some good things for them last year that are not on the team this year. But they went into that game against Jordan Matthews, a team that's been rolling in conference play after that 5-0 win against Southeast Alamance, who is the second best team in this conference. Seaforth came into their place and gave them a scare, gave them a battle. Nobody scored until Jeremy Alvarado from Jordan Matthews knocked in the goal, I think, in the middle of the second half. So it was really close battle. Seaforth played some really good – they did some really good things defensively, and especially Jack Hayes in the goal, their goalkeeper, picking up some big saves from against Jordan Matthews. Angelo Vera, Jordan Matthews, senior captain, goaltender, he picked up some big saves as well. And I mean, it was a really hard fought battle. Jordan Matthews pulled out at the end. And Jordan Matthews, I mean, past couple weeks, they've been pulling out the close games. And I was looking at their schedule. They're 4-2 in games that are decided by 2 or less goals. And they lost their first 2 games in those manner against Ragsdale, and I think the other one was Franklin Academy, who they lost to in last year's playoffs. But since then, I mean, they're 4-0 in games like that. They found a way to win last night, and their defense has been playing really good the past couple games, especially here in conference play.
Yeah, the other thing, too, before we start, you mentioned the 2 teams are just – I think you mentioned that initially. You thought Seaforth was going to get blown out by JM, but Seaforth only lost by 1-0. So JM's not the only team doing well, but Seaforth's moving up there as well, aren't they?
Yeah, Seaforth is in pretty good standing still in the conference standings. Looking at it now, I think they are. Let's see, they are 5th in the conference after, of course, the loss to Jordan Matthews. But they've only played 4 conference games. Everyone has to go through the second round of conference play coming up. Still plenty of season left to play in boys soccer, so they still have plenty of time to build on that game, which I think was a positive for them in what they saw and pick up some momentum as they try to make a playoff push.
All right, unofficial power rankings for soccer teams here in the county.
Okay, unofficial, starting from 5, I got Chatham Charter, 4 Woods Charter, 3 Seaforth, 2 Northwood, and 1 JM. Northwood, and I saw them play early on this season. I like what they have on their team. I think I really want to see them put it all the way together and pick up, a good stretch of wins here. But Seaforth, like I said, still finding their way, but positives from last night. And Woods and Chatham Charter. I mean, Chatham Charter is winless still this season. But I think between Seaforth, Woods, and Northwood, I mean, it can really be a toss-up, as the season goes. I think Jordan Matthews, until somebody in the county, in the conference beats them, they still are, to me, the number 1 team here in Chatham for boys soccer.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Woods Charter is doing better this year than they did last year. They were supposed to have a game last night. I was going to go out and shoot that, but that game got canceled because the field that they play at across the road from the school was way too wet. And if you've ever been out to that field, you can see where the water kind of settles in there. So a lot of good soccer coming up. I asked Asheebo about this again. He mentioned second round games. You're going to have JM coming to play Seaforth. Seaforth's going to play Northwood again. So a lot of these teams are going to come around and play each other one more time. So if you're interested in soccer, definitely come back and visit us every Thursday. All right, what we got at cross country and in tennis?
Yeah, so I can do a recap of last week's cross country games. Let me pull up our recap from not games, cross country meets. I'm sorry. Yeah, and then in cross country last week, like I said, we had the Adidas cross country challenge with Seaforth and Northwood participating in that one. In that one, Jack Anstrom finished 20th. in the boys championship 5K minutes and 33.9 seconds, finishing to finish the race there for Seaforth. And then the boys invitational race, the 5K, the Hawks finished 15th as a team. Top 25 finishes from Samuel Neal. He got 21st, and senior Will Quickie, who came right behind him in 22nd place. And then Northwood in that same race finished 33rd out of the 37 teams, led by Junior Wiley, who ran a 16-minute, 46.5-second race to finish at 31st place in that one. And then in the girls' invitational race at the same meet, we had Seaforth finishing 7th out of 32 teams, thanks to 3 top 60 finishes from Katie Leonard, who was 40th, Claire Morgan 52nd, and Sasha Helmer at 55. And then we had, of course, our athlete of the week, Julia Hall, like we said, finishing with the best performance from any Chatham County runner in that race, in the girls' race, 19th with a time of 20 minutes, 1.3 seconds. So, yeah, I mean, a good day for both county teams at that cross country event. Jack Anstrom back out there once again, doing some big things for Seaforth. And like we said, Julia Hall also doing some big things for Northwood on the girls' side. So that's the latest update we have in cross country until we see what the results are from the meets this week.
All right, that seems to wrap it up, folks. Asheebo's going to be at the football game tonight. It's going to be Seaforth at Chatham Central. I'll be there probably for the second half. We don't know where we're going to be next week yet, do we?
No, I haven't even looked. Yeah, but the schedule's getting messed up with the weather. We're gonna have to take a pause and see where we're going to be. And of course, things are getting more interesting now that we're getting closer to the end of these seasons here in the fall. So we're going to start looking at some playoff projections, seeing what teams can make it. How far teams can go into playoffs and things like that. And yeah, we're getting to the fun part of the fall season. We'll say that.
Right. So yeah, we'll let folks know as things are going along. Follow Asheebo on X. Also want to congratulate him again on his North Carolina Press Association award. He had several people at the Northwood game congratulate him on that. So it's nice to see someone local get some award for covering sports scene here in Chatham County. Folks, we will see you next Thursday. Follow Asheebo tonight on X if you can't make it out to the Seaforth versus Chatham Central game. And we will see you next Thursday, same time. And if some of you that are old enough to remember, same time, same back channel. Yeah, that's a long, long time ago. All right.